The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and good morning and welcome to the After College webinar. It's just 10 o'clock right now, and I think what we're going to do is wait another 2 or 3 minutes for more people to dial in, and then we'll get started. So I'm going to put you back on hold and we'll be right back. Thank you. right, good morning and welcome to the After College webinar today. This is part of our ongoing webinar series where we're trying to give you the tools and a framework to land your dream job before graduation. My name is Stephanie Peterson. I'm the VP of Marketing at After College, and today our guest speaker, Courtney, is going to speak to you about how to make an impression at a career fair or info session. Before I introduce her, I just wanted to call your attention to our schedule. So this is the fourth webinar in the series. The first three webinars, zeroing in on what you want to do, building and making the most of your network, and how to create a standout resume. All of those are recorded and they are available on our YouTube channel. So if you missed them, you can go watch them at your leisure. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/aftercollegemedia. We will also be recording today's webinar. So if for some reason you have to jump off, or if you want to share this with a friend, you can also, we'll be able to access it on our YouTube channel within the next 24 hours. So this week, the focus is on how to make an impression at a career fair. Next week, we'll be doing a webinar at the same time on the same day. That's 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Next week, we'll focus on interview prep and transforming interviews into conversations. And Courtney will also be leading us through that webinar as well. I also want to call attention to the GoToWebinar control panel. At the end of Courtney's presentation, she would be happy to take questions from you. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in there. So let me do a quick introduction. So Courtney Young Law wants to transform people into protagonists in their lives and in their careers. She has degrees from the University of Texas at Austin, Harvard Graduate School of Education, and Mills College. After extensive experience as an administrator and professor in higher education, she founded Fundamentum, which is a coaching service that teaches you the skills you need to take control of your career and find your fit. So we're so happy to have Courtney join us today. Courtney, go ahead and take it away.
Great. Thanks so much, Stephanie, for the opportunity to speak with your audience today. And today we're going to be talking about the amazing opportunities that you have to make an impression at a career fair or an info session. And these are really valuable opportunities to get in front of employers and some decision makers. And so I'm hoping that we will give you some tools on how to prepare, how to introduce yourself, and how to follow up from these great opportunities. And as Stephanie introduced me, I am CEO of Fundamentum, where we coach people to take control of their career and find their fit. We've been lucky to partner with After College and share some pieces of our coaching program where a coach supports you through your job search and teaches you the skills you need for your dream job. So definitely one of the skills that you need is to be able to share who you are and what you want succinctly. And these kinds of venues like career fairs and information sessions are great opportunities to do that. So the most important thing that you need to do is to prepare yourself. And that means that you need to do some homework before you go. So for career fairs, you need to think about who's going to be there, what industries or companies are interesting to you. And you need to have sort of a plan of, finding the folks that you want to talk to, but also doing some exploratory research and chatting with some of the folks that you don't know enough about and want to learn more. And then for information sessions, usually, that's one company hosting that. You would have advance notice of who that company is. Really asking some questions and doing research online around what does this company do and how might I fit into it. And another piece of the preparation is to look presentable for either a career fair or an information session. And that varies by, the type of company, and the type of career fair. And if you have any question, I really encourage you to ask your career coach your career services at your college or university, what they suggest. But some organizations will expect you to come in, full business attire, and some will expect you to, be in at least business casual. So you're always safe in some level of business casual, but don't go, running across campus from your workout to an information session. And then, the other piece of preparation is to bring some kind of documentation to share with folks. So that could be a resume. But one of the things that I like to encourage people who are, in the job search to do is to create business cards. And, you can print them for relatively little expense. There are lots of online vendors that print business cards. And you can include your name, your email address, a phone number, and then your LinkedIn profile so people can see your professional information. And I find that to be a differentiator. Not everyone is going to have that. And it allows you to keep it current. So whenever they look at it, whenever they go look at your LinkedIn, they're going to see the most current information rather than a resume that was only current for that, particular day that you printed it out. So once you're there, you really have to be able to introduce yourself. And a job search is about repeatedly introducing yourself in person and on paper. And you need a succinct way to capture people's attention. So you need a personal brand that helps you stand out and should convince someone that they want to spend more time with you. You want to highlight your best self and what makes you interesting to potential employers. So when you show up at a career fair or at an information session, you really want to have this ready to go. So how do you create this? How do you have this great statement? You really have to answer two big questions in less than 25 words. The first one is, who are you? So, this is the central question in any job search. Who are you? Why are you interesting to me as an employer? And why you and not someone else? And a personal brand is really an answer to the question, who are you? It's a succinct statement about you that quickly and clearly shares who you are and what you're looking for. And then the second big question that you have to ask or be able to answer is, what do you want? And this is about, what kind of position are you looking for, but also what do you want to learn? What skills do you want to use? And as someone who has attended career fairs as an employer, it is really rare for someone to be able to come and articulate what they want. I cannot tell you how many times people said, what positions do you have? When I would say, what are you looking for? People would say, what positions do you have? And that is not the answer that I want to hear as an employer. I'm looking for someone who knows what they want and is able to tell me what they want. And maybe it's not a fit for the positions that I have, but the ability to do that makes me take notice and makes me think, oh, how can I connect you with someone who does? Because I know the other employers that are there. I have connections. So even if I don't have a position in particular for you, because you're able to articulate what you want, I'm much more likely to be able to help you find that. So I'm going to take a few minutes just to run through, some characteristics of a personal brand. So as you're thinking about creating one, what are the things that you need to include in the answers, or what are the characteristics that will help you have a better read on this? So the first thing is you want it to be crisp. It needs to be a short message, and it needs to be able to capture the person's attention. Make it pop. It needs to be powerful, and this is where word choice really is important. You need to be able to have an impact and think about the impact that you want to have in your career and in those first roles. It needs to be unique, and this is really about expressing your point of view. This is your beliefs, not what you want not what you think other people want to hear. So, if you know that I have a marketing position and you're not that interested in marketing, don't come and talk to me about marketing. Come and talk to me about what you're really interested in. Because again, I'm going to be able to help you find those things rather than, trying to fit your, sort of square peg into the round hole of whatever the position might be. And it needs to be in your own voice. So, of course, we want you to choose impactful words, but they have to be authentic to you. It has to be something that you would normally say. So how do you talk about what you want to do with your closest friends? How do you describe your dreams with them? Use those terms. And then this is the Goldilocks slide. You want a personal brand that is broad enough to encompass several different opportunities, but not so broad that people don't know where you fit or how to help you. And this is really important as you're thinking about, we're going to a career fair and talking about things, because you don't want to exclude yourself from opportunities, but you also don't want to be so broad that people really don't know what you might be interested in. So some examples for this. Too broad is, I want to help save animals. Too specific is, I want to help save animals by working for Native Wildlife Center nonprofit in Seattle. Just right is, I'm a passionate animal rights activist looking to work for nonprofits in the Pacific Northwest. This gives folks a sense of what you care about, the sector that you're looking at, and a general location that you want to be in. So that's just kind of an idea of how to get that just right statement. And then finally, it has to be something you're passionate about. This has to be something that you're excited about, because these are your hopes and dreams, right? If you aren't excited and committed to them, then the people listening to you won't be either. So, please don't show up at the career fair, shake hands with me and say, yeah, I'm kind of interested in robotics, right? That's not going to leave the kind of impression that you want to. So we have a couple of examples that I'll run through, thinking about, you're at a career fair or even an information session. You get an opportunity to speak with the recruiter or possibly a hiring manager. You want to be able to go up and, introduce yourself, look them in the eye, shake hands, and give them a quick synopsis of who you are and what you want. So here's an example. I am a creative problem solver in event planning, and I'm looking for an internship in marketing departments to help develop events that create great brand association. So that helps people see, who you are, what you want, and to think about whether or not that's a good fit for their company, and that whether or not they have particular events planning internships or not, you will get to, particularly at career fairs, you will get a great response from someone who can help you think, I don't have any positions like that, but let me send you to somewhere that might. They also may just be so blown away that you are so clear about what you want, that they'll say, well, let you talk to this person over here who knows more about our marketing department. So it can take what could be just a very quick conversation and shift it into a longer one. Another example is, I'm passionate about empowering people whose voices are marginalized. I want to work in program management for a nonprofit focused on strengthening and connecting communities. So again, this is someone who, may have a background in sociology. They might have a background in a lot of liberal arts, but they're sort of saying, this is how I want to use that background. It gives the employer so much more context on what they're really looking for. And then, I design safe and sustainable infrastructure, and I want to begin my career with an engineering firm that has a grand vision for the future. Right? You're not saying, in the what do I want? You're not saying that they have to have, you're really not limiting yourself, but you're saying that I want to be connected with someone who's, forward thinking. Well, most engineering companies think that they're forward thinking, but it's a great way of framing the way that you want to be connected to an organization. And then finally, after you've made some connections, and for an info session, usually again, there's only one sponsor, so you're going to be talking with the employer that's sponsoring it. At a career fair, I would expect that you don't need to go and talk to the 65 companies that are there. Really do your homework, understand who's there, and target 5 to 10 to have those really good conversations with, rather than having really 65 poor conversations. So once you've done those, though, that requires that you follow up to make them really useful to you. So, after you've had the conversation, don't overstay your welcome. Shake hands, thank the person for their time, and ask for a business card. And this is a really key part, because you want to be able to send an email to them following up with a specific ask. And that might be to have an informational interview. It might be to have, to actually apply for the position. It might be a referral that they might have mentioned. Wherever your conversation went, make sure that you have a specific ask that you can follow up with. And know why you are sending the email, and be clear about how that person can help you. And then I would give them, a few days, 3 to 4 days, to respond. And if they don't follow up, you have their business card, you can call them, and that's perfectly okay to give them a call and check in and say, I'm really curious about this. You don't want to call them repeatedly, and you don't want to take advantage of their time. But if you have a specific ask and you made a connection, it is absolutely okay to follow up with them via email, and then to follow up with a phone call if you're not hearing back from them within a reasonable amount of time. So those are my big, points. Make sure that you prepare. Make sure that you introduce yourself well. Make sure that you follow up. I'm happy to take some questions and, help people think through how to, really make these opportunities useful in your job search.
Great. Thanks, Courtney. This is Steph again. The first question we have is, what if I don't really know what I want to do? Can I have, or maybe I have a sense of a few things that I might like to do, or different types of jobs I want to apply for? Is it okay to have multiple personal statements?
Yes. So I think that, as you progress through your time in university, I would like to see you having fewer of them, so that by the time you're conducting a senior job search, that you really have narrowed it down to one. And not that you can't have multiple interests and be excited about a lot of things, but it's really hard to run 6 job searches. You will end up being mediocre for 6 different types of jobs, because you're not going to be able to put all of your focus and attention. And with a job search, it's very rare that there's more than one hire, so if you're mediocre or in the middle of the pack, you're not going to get the offer. So I really encourage my clients to think about narrowing their search and running a job search that's very focused. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, because it feels like you're limiting your options, but you're really increasing your odds by being much more clear about what you want and how your experience relates to that role. But I understand, career fairs are great opportunities for folks as, freshmen, sophomores, to go, and it's perfectly okay that you have less clarity about it. But I would work on a couple of statements so that you're not just sort of showing up and saying, I don't really know what I want to do, or I'll do anything. Because as an employer, I do not want to hear that you'll do anything. Because again, that connotes to me that you're going to be mediocre at it, or that you're not that interested in it, or skilled at it, right? So what I would encourage people to do who have a lot of ideas is or interests is to really take note of your skills and make it much more skill based. So saying, I have great, social media skills, and I'm looking for an opportunity to leverage those. Or I have, a deep interest in research and have really been honing my research skills, and I'm looking for ways to apply that. What might be opportunities at your company? So still have something to ground the conversation, but you can be more open and broader in how you approach it, how do you apply it.
Okay, great. Thanks. That's great advice. Okay, so the next question is, on my business card, if I make a business card, which I think is a great suggestion, should I use my .edu email or my normal email, like if I have a Gmail or something else?
I think if you have a Gmail that is, your name or some permutation that's fairly professional, it's perfectly fine to use that. If you're, you can use your EDU, but be mindful of how long that will be activated after, particularly for folks in their senior year who are conducting a search. You want to make sure that you can receive those emails. But I don't think there's a wrong way to do it unless you have, an email that's a bad pun or something not quite professional. I would not put that on my business card.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion, because I just know that oftentimes you can be in an employer's database for many years. It's rare, but there are occasions where they could possibly call you in 2 or 3 years and for a job, and they might, if they have your EDU address, you might not be still getting that a couple of years after graduation. So
yeah, I think it's useful if you have, or it's worth creating a professional email address that you're going to have control over. Mm-hmm. And I know some EDUs, make those available, for life, but for the most part, I think it's, they want you to switch to an alumni account. So I would use your personal email.
Yeah. Okay, we have one more question here. It says, whenever I go to info sessions, there's always a long line to talk to the presenter afterwards. Is it worth waiting to talk to them? Or if I have to leave, can I just send them an email instead of introducing myself in person?
Well, a couple of things. If you can show up early, you can often connect with the presenter, and they may be busy setting up, and so you certainly don't want to be rude or distracting them. But often they, get there early, get everything set up, and sort of stand at the front. And I've seen people, the presenters at the front, literally standing there, and people just go and sit down and get on their phones. And so don't miss that opportunity, right? You can, I think it shows a lot of confidence to go up, shake someone's hand, say hello, and introduce yourself, particularly if you have to leave. And then I think that if you can stay, it is absolutely worth it to, excuse me, I'm sorry. It is absolutely worth it to make that personal contact, because an email that follows up from personal contact is going to be much stronger than an email that, is cold. So, it's not that you can't do it. And certainly if you're going to send a cold email after going to the presentation, but not making contact with the presenter, personalize it and talk about something that you learned. But, personal contact in the job search is really you want to maximize your opportunities for that whenever you can.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. One last question. Is it appropriate to connect, like if I meet a recruiter at a college fair or info session, is it appropriate for me, if I have a LinkedIn account, to invite them to be linked in with me and to connect with me there?
That's a great question. And it it depends on I think it's perfectly appropriate for you to ask to connect via LinkedIn, and the recruiter or hiring manager can make decisions about how they run their LinkedIn. Because, I know recruiters and hiring managers who will connect to anyone that they meet in their campus tours. And I know folks who say, no, this is my professional network, and I'm using it, as my tool, not to, connect to someone I met briefly in an information session. So I think it's perfectly fine to request a LinkedIn, and that they can, make a decision about how they're using that tool.
Great. I would just add one thing to that, which is when you ask somebody to connect on LinkedIn, it gives you sort of a dialog box, and there's a determined thing that says something like, I'd like to connect with you. I suggest that you get rid of that and actually write a personal note like, hi, this is so-and-so. We met at the career fair at my college on this date, so that they have some context for who you are, because they may not remember you, especially if you're just sending them something on LinkedIn. So that's the only other thing I would add.
I think that's great advice, and yes, definitely.
Yeah.
That folks need to do if you're going to reach out to someone that you've met briefly on LinkedIn, you want to definitely give them context about who you are, and and use your personal brand to reinforce, give them the time, day, and context of your meeting, but also use your personal brand to reinforce, who you are and what you're looking for.
Yep, exactly. Well, so that concludes the questions. Do you have any final thoughts for our audience today, Courtney?
Yes. Thanks again for the opportunity to present here. I'm happy to answer any questions that come at hello@fundamentum.com. And, if you are interested in a free consultation, you can sign up at fundamentum.com.
That's great. And I'd also love to encourage you to come to aftercollege.com to set up a profile there. We have a lot of great employers that come to After College who are looking for students just like you. And so they're often, if you set up a profile with us, then they'll be able to discover you and then reach out to you for possible job and internship opportunities. So thanks so much for everybody for attending today. We hope you can join us next week at the same time for our next webinar, which is on how to prep for an interview and how to transform interviews into conversations. Thanks so much, everybody, and have a great day. Take care.